wrap up about a half hour ago. So Anna Campbell will not be joining us this morning, or this afternoon rather, excuse me. So small crowd today. Don't know if this will be an hour meeting or not, but we're gonna dig into the topic of volunteers and volunteering. And I can't wait to hear what some of our panelists have to say. So let's start with introductions. I'm Alicia Murphy. I'm with the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. I'm the grant coordinator. So if you need money for a community arts event, let me know. And let's have everyone introduce themselves. Joanne, go ahead. You're one of our guest panelists.
Hi, everyone. Joanne Roberts. I've had a lot of different hats I've worn over the years, but from an organization standpoint and working with volunteers, I was the event coordinator for the St. Lawrence County Chamber for 13 years. I've organized separately the Junior Carp Tournament, either for the Chamber or for the Carp Anglers Group. I also organized the St. Lawrence or the Potsdam's Central School Mega Reunion, which was a huge event in Potsdam twice. And I own a business called the Nut Shop International. So I'm a vendor at a lot of craft shows that people know me through.
Great. Thank you. Erica, let's jump over to you, please.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Erica LaFountain. I work at Cornell Cooperative Extension right now as the community horticulture educator, and I coordinate the Master Gardener Volunteers group there. I've also, I recently finished my second and last term on the Potsdam Food Co-op Board, which is all volunteer, and previously, I managed a farm for the city of Boston that had all sorts of volunteer groups come out from churches, corporations, schools, as well as just individuals. So I've seen a lot of sizes of volunteer groups over the years.
Thank you very much for being here today. Erica is one of our panelists, and our final panelist today is Amelia. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Amelia Gaddy. I work at the Children's Museum in Potsdam. I am the programs coordinator, so part of my job is doing working with volunteers and interns from the community, and I also work with schools and get field trips and birthday parties planned at the museum.
That's terrific.
That's fun.
It does sound like a fun job. I think we'll have time. I'm going to just have everyone just say a couple words just to introduce themselves, since there's only 13 of us here today. So Amanda Mason, go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Mason. I'm the new programs coordinator of SLC Arts. I held the musicality event in Parrishville when I was in high school, and right now I'm working to put together the North Country Arts Festival.
Oh, Alicia, you're muted.
Chris, you're next on my screen. I'm so sorry. There's 3 of us in the same office and we're kind of echoing here. Go ahead, Chris.
Can you hear me all right? Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Roselle with Chrysalis Designs and Phoenix Rising Art. I'm a professional artist out of Norwood. I work with kids primarily with the Norwood Library. I run Arts Around the World grant program. It's in its 4th year this year. We're very excited to start in July, from July 7th to August 5th. So I'm excited about that. I do mixed media arts of all walks and shapes. So that's a little about me. It's nice to meet you all.
Perfect. Thank you. Mary Jane, let's skip over to you next, please.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Watson. I'm with the Sunday Rock Legacy Project, and we are busy preparing for our summer musical, which this year is in Russell at the Russell Theater. Sunday Rock Legacy is a partnership of Grass River Players, Colton Historical Society, and Colton Pierpont Central School. We can't use the school this year because of COVID, and they're running a summer school. So last year we were out in the field behind the Colton Pierpont AMVETS.
That
But
was
this year
fun.
we're inside, so we're excited.
Thank you. Evelyn, could you introduce yourself, please? You're muted. Got it. Can you unmute her?
Like touching the screen of the computer and nothing's happening. Sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, I'm Evelyn Safier, and I am gallery director of the Iva Smith Memorial Gallery of Fine Art in Hammond. And we have many beautiful things going on here, including our Yellow Barn concert series, which is coming about with the help of the Arts Council. And I thank you. And we have a big, beautiful concert coming this Friday. And then we have so you can find all these things on Facebook, and our grand art opening is coming on Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
Perfect.
And we're all set in a lovingly restored 19th century barn with fields around and barn quilts on everywhere you look, and artwork, beautiful artwork. And everyone is welcome to come down. I hope you'll all make the day trip to our gallery sometime or other.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Erica, could we unmute you and have you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I thought I already introduced myself, or should I say something more?
I'm
There's
sorry, Erica.
Is there another Erica? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry, my mistake.
no worries, no worries. Hi, I'm Erica. I am the executive director for Hearts for Youth. I just started a few months ago, so this is kind of new to me. We just got our summer brochure out, and I'm hoping for some signups. We have a lot of fun activities going on, and it's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. Let's skip over to Jenna Clute here at SLC Art.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I am the marketing coordinator here at SLC Arts. Formerly, I was the programs coordinator, and then Amanda came in, and now we're shifting gears a little bit. So now I'm the marketing coordinator, but I'm still here and still very excited to be, helping with these roundtable events.
Awesome, thank you. Michaela, if you want to unmute yourself, that's great.
Hi there. I'm Michaela. I'm from the Clayton Opera House. I'm the marketing specialist here. I just started in November, so I'm still pretty new. We officially just opened our doors a couple weeks ago after the very long intermission. You'll hear us say that a lot. So we're super excited to be able to be having events, and I'm just kind of absorbing any and all information possible right now. So thank you for inviting us to join on these Zoom videos.
Thank you. And I attended the concert the other night. It was fantastic. And it was so nice to be just out. It was great. Well done.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
There's someone here that's on a phone. I don't know if you can unmute or not. It's a 0395 number. I'll give you, if you want to introduce yourself. Okay, that's okay. Let's jump over. Last but not least, we have Maggie McKenna. She's our executive director here at the Arts Council.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm not back yet, but I'm running some errands. But I'm Maggie McKenna, I'm the executive director. Thank you everybody for participating in this call and for joining in. I think that it'll be really great to hear a little bit more about volunteer programs and what you all do, and what advice that you can give to our other partners and friends in the area. Thank you to Alicia and Jenna for organizing this, and I hope that we all learn a whole bunch from this.
Thanks. Now that we all know each other, let's just jump right into we have a rough outline here. The first thing that we're going to discuss is why volunteers. So how is volunteering mutually beneficial for the organization and the individual? Maybe we want to take those components separately or together, but I'd like to hear some feedback, please, at this time from our panelists, who are all very qualified to answer this question. Joanne, do you want to start? Whoops, can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Volunteers are key for any kind of event, but especially if it's a larger event. I've always said that the smallest of detail makes for the most successful event. And Alicia being one of those people that's worked with me on some events, she knows what I'm talking about. But a lot of times organizations don't have enough staff or they're involved in something else. So if you have a board of directors, or if you have a core group of volunteers that are, or folks that are interested in volunteering, you know, it allows you to kind of control, or not control, that's not a good word, but kind of oversee all the different pieces of an event puzzle with, you know, dedicated people that are assigned to like certain tasks. So it's kind of like multiplying your staff by whatever number when you don't have a large staff in itself.
Erica, do you have anything to add, or Amelia?
Yeah, I love that that having a volunteer base can really help an organization kind of suit their person power to the needs of their organization. So you don't need to have you know, lots of people on the staff full time for those times when you need to put on a larger event or a larger program. You can call on those people and have like an all hands on deck moment, and then kind of shrink back down so that the overhead for an organization is kind of minimized. But I think it's really important that that there's a mutual benefit to the volunteer and the organization, but also that mutual benefit is constantly kind of being brought up, or that the volunteer is being reminded of those benefits, whether it's just a one-time volunteer experience or a longer-term volunteer arrangement, just by reminding them of like the mission of your organization, reminding them that there are kind of limits to your organization and that you really depend on volunteers like them to extend that reach and amplify the work of the organization and to accomplish work in the community.
Excellent. Great.
And I will add that obviously being a small organization, cutting the overhead is obviously very helpful. We rely on a lot of younger, like college student or high school student interns or volunteers. And it's funny because I had an intern from SUNY Potsdam this semester, and she was kind of saying, oh, you know, I want to move and I don't really know what I can put down for job experience. And I was like, you worked here all semester and here's all the things you did. And then she kind of said, oh yeah, which was really funny. So I was like, this is how this would fit into this kind of job for you. So reminding them of the skills they're using, I think is really helpful as well.
I totally agree with that. I mean, my poor daughter was dragged around to almost every event I ever organized. And when she graduated from high school, well, actually, when she was in high school and she wanted to apply for a full-time, it was like a BOCES all-day program, which was first time offered, which gained her a lot of college credit. She had to actually, you know, do an application with an essay and stuff. And I remember her coming to me and saying, do you think Brooke, who was the executive director at the county chamber at the time, would sign off on all this stuff that she volunteered and helped with all these events? And it was an amazing addition to her her resume and the letters of reference and stuff. I mean, for being a 17, 18-year-old kid, it was invaluable. And, you know, she's been helping organize events since she was 7 years old with me. And, you know, at sometimes she'll take over the junior carp tournament, or at least she tells me she will. But not only that, but it's also given her a lot of confidence in public speaking, because she's had to be out in, you know, in front of the public. And she's a lot more confident than a lot of kids her age. So there's a lot of benefit to that completely. So totally agree with that.
Great. So it really is a mutually beneficial relationship. So,
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
wanted to say something about the role volunteers play in community outreach, because whether it's actually part of their role when they're volunteering in your organization to represent your organization, or if it's not part, or if that's not part of their role at all, they're still going to represent your organization when they talk to people, when they mention that they volunteer there, when they mention, you know, how well your organization is run, whether they plan on committing to volunteer long-term, whether their work there feels meaningful. All of these things are going to come up in conversation. So they, yeah, whether that's part of their role or not, it's that information is kind of out there. It's part of like informal outreach for your organization. And so my Master Gardener volunteers, that is like explicitly part of their role to represent Cornell Cooperative Extension, and they're all trained to do that. But sometimes it's, you know, they're representing you in a less formal way.
great. Thank you. Let's move on and from the why and talking specifically about the nuts and bolts of recruitment. How do you find, where do you find volunteers? What do you need to know before you even go out searching for volunteers? Why don't we start there? And then where do you find them? What channels do you use? Do you use social media, newsletters, ads, however you recruit and find your people?
Yeah, I think that maybe the most important thing is if you have an area, a skill set that's lacking in your organization, that's kind of a top priority to fill that with volunteers. And then also before you start looking, it's really important to know what kind of a commitment you're looking for. Like, do you want someone to come, you know, regularly on a Saturday to do your books, or are you looking for someone that you can call up as needed, or just for a single event, as many people as possible? It's really important to know those details ahead of time, so you can be really clear about what your expectations are from the beginning.
Joanne, can't hear you.
Really, again?
Now again.
Sorry about that. I think identifying the tasks that are needed, and, you know, it's very different if it's, you know, an ongoing, just, I need somebody to help stuff envelopes this day, or if you're doing an actual event. If you're doing an actual event, I think the most important thing is to identify the tasks that you need, how many people you need, and kind of a description of what their tasks will be. The other thing in getting the word out is, you know, whether you do press releases, whether you do social media posts. But I think for bigger events, an information session is very important. We did that with the very first Bassmaster event I did out in Waddington. And we held like a public information session. We had sign-up sheets clearly outlining all the tasks that were available and needed, and, you know, their contact information, what days they were available. And then we were able to take all those forms and then put together a schedule for what each of the volunteers would be doing and when. And then I assigned an actual, I guess, volunteer leader, because I was so busy doing other things. So I think the more information you can give people of what you need and when you need it, and then you get into, and I think this might be another question, so I won't get into it, but, you know, appreciation for them. and knowing their appreciation for them.
Amelia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I totally agree. Having a clear idea of what you need is really helpful. When I first started this job, I definitely was kind of like, I had been teaching in a classroom, so this was a major shift for me. And then realizing, oh, everyone has questions because I didn't answer anything when I was reaching out was really helpful. So yeah, just giving as much clear explanation of what they'll be doing. Obviously, there are things that could be different, or something could pop up at a time, but being clear. For us, for volunteers, we reach out. We use primarily high school and college interns. High school students often will do weekend, or we do pretty standard shifts. So it's like they have a job. So we get a lot of high school weekend volunteers or afternoons. And we actually reach out to local principals of high schools and just ask them if they could send out something to their students. And we've gotten a lot of replies that way. And then college students, I work with both SUNY Potsdam and SLU, and in different departments in both. And they are able to earn credits for interning with us at the museum. And those students we have much more expectations for, since they are earning credit. And then they work on major projects as well as doing different shifts and what we need.
Great, terrific.
It's always great to be able to use your internal kind of, I guess I don't mean internal, but your email lists and social media that are already, where you already have a captive audience that is familiar with the work of your organization and committed on some level to it, whether they're just following you on social media or they've subscribed to a list or attended an event in the past, as opposed to, I would always start at that level and then reach out, beyond that to, with say a newspaper ad or something that's going to try to reach beyond, the communication sphere you already have. If you aren't able to draw in enough people that way. I actually, I haven't tried this yet, but at some point we'll be training a new group of Master Gardener volunteers. And, normally some people approach us saying, when's your next training? Because they've heard about our program, because we're always trying to remind people that the program exists by putting out, social media posts and such. But if we need a few more people to reach the threshold for actually offering a training, I'm realizing that looking at Facebook groups that are like in line with the kind of work we do, there are loads of people on there who are who are demonstrating their knowledge and their interest in helping other people through Facebook groups. So let's say North Country Gardeners, or Beginning Gardeners, or Foragers 101, or whatever, all these different groups that are have similar goals to your organization. I'm thinking about mining some of those groups to say, you're really active on this site. You answer a lot of people's questions. Would you be interested in doing this training where your role would be answering gardening questions for the public?
And most people in that situation are very passionate about what you're talking about. And that's a great idea, one that I have not used in the past, but that's a great idea, because with Facebook, there's, groups of just about any kind available to your, available. So that's wonderful.
So when you find volunteers, how do you approach them? How do you convince them, ask them? I think a lot of times people just want to be or need to be asked. They're ready to do it, but how do you start that ball rolling? How do you break the ice and get from breaking the ice to a new volunteer?
I think it's really important to start by informing or reminding them of the mission of the organization, rather than starting with, I need help with such and such. And that gives kind of like a base level of meaning to the work that they would be agreeing to help your organization with. And I would just start by explaining, what we do and why we're doing, and then saying, I see that you have an interest in this. Have you considered helping, or like describing an event or describing a role, so that I think a person is much more likely to say yes if they know what they're getting into, basically.
Very true.
Anything to add to that?
I mean, I think a lot of times the volunteers that you get are a direct result of putting the word out that you're looking for volunteers. So, the people already know, because maybe the social media post or the press release already explained the mission of the organization, what they're trying to accomplish, or what they're needing volunteers for. So, you're a little bit ahead of the game at that point. But no, I don't really have anything more to add as in that regards. I think it's important for people not to feel that, because I think we've all been there. You start a new job and you're kind of thrown into it with no training, no real guidance. And so I think the importance of keeping volunteers interested, as well as knowing they're appreciated, is to give them the right tools so they can do a good job, because that not only benefits you, but it gives them a lot of confidence and appreciative. So
Any other insights when it comes to finding, recruiting, and getting them to, I think we've had some good dialogue. Let's move on to volunteer engagement. Once you have a volunteer in your organization for a particular task or for a particular time, how do you match their tasks with them? How do you keep them motivated? How do you retain them and make them want to keep coming back and volunteer for your organization again?
Well, I think it's important for people to feel that they had a hand in what they're doing, so, I mean, it's just like, not like an official job interview, but, understanding what their strengths are, understanding or asking what their interests are, or how they feel that they could help the organization in a matchup with the task that you're looking for. It just gives them ownership, and I think they'd be more willing to, if they're doing something they're interested in, then you tend to keep them longer, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm getting all these messages and texts and stuff I'm trying to clear.
I think it's really important on the front end when a new volunteer starts who is cultivating as a long-term volunteer, to put that time in, to invest that time on the front end, to kind of develop a rapport. And I agree with what Joanne said about the feeling ownership, but and then, as she said, to kind of show your appreciation for them by thanking them, but also by showing that you value their time by planning ahead for their volunteer time, and taking the time to really engage with them, rather than just showing them you're really stressed and busy and assuming that they'll get satisfaction just from taking a task out of your hands, and making you less harried in that moment, because that's not really enough. That's not like a really positive like level of engagement for a volunteer. But if you can get on the same page at the beginning about the arrangement, the expectations, how to communicate, and where the meaning is and what they're doing, that can really lead to a a beneficial, like a mutually beneficial long-term volunteer arrangement.
You know, a lot of times volunteer groups are community driven. The Messina Chamber used to have this whole group of, I think they called them chamber ambassadors. So when new businesses came to town and they did a ribbon cutting, all these people dressed in these nice red blazers would show up, and it looked like, you know, this huge welcoming committee. So if you can gather a group of, or build your volunteer base, that no matter what you're doing, you have people that you can call on. It not only helps you, but the people that are on that volunteer list feel such a part of the communities they're helping out. And that just brings awareness to not only the area, but also to the businesses they're helping. You know, we always talk about shop local, support local. Word of mouth is the best thing for that, and the volunteers can really help with that aspect as well.
Yeah. And I have to say, I am in a position each month when we have a roundtable of trying to come up with a number of volunteer panelists, and I can't do that on my own with my own Rolodex, so, or my own contacts. Sorry, I'm dating myself. So, you know, I ask other people that I know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Joanne, perfect. And then Erica and Amelia were suggested by our ED Maggie, and I think it's really important. Word of mouth, especially in a rural area and like this, I think is really key. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, in all the in the job that I've had, you know, clearly I know a lot of people. I can't tell you how many times a week somebody will call me and say, hey, I'm looking for a pest control person, or I'm looking for, you know, whatever it is. And volunteering is one way for people to really understand their area, appreciate their area, and the work that goes into the businesses in their area. It's just another piece of the puzzle as far as, you know, communication is concerned, and it helps everybody.
I'll also add that if we have a good volunteer, I will ask them if they have friends that they want to bring the next time. Because if they're good, I'm hoping that their friends are good too. And then we can add to the core volunteers that we have.
Awesome. I just want to ask our guest panelists, we're wrapping up a little early today, but I think we've covered a lot of ground. This has been a really great roundtable. Final thoughts or best practices. What are the takeaways for the folks here looking for through all of this information? What are the main parts in your minds?
In my opinion, the key to keeping volunteers and having good volunteers is, one, planning ahead, getting tasks, getting some kind of outline down. The more information you can give in the recruitment, keeping them engaged and continuing to thank them and show appreciation throughout, but then even after the fact. So after whatever task wraps up, or an event, especially if it's event driven versus just, you know, Saturday coming into stuff envelopes or something, you know, putting out a letter to the editor, thanking all the people that were involved and helped to pull the event off. Or if it's a big enough event, you could certainly, and you have the dollars to do it, you know, whether you give them t-shirts as a thank you, or if you give them a meal, you know, do like a little picnic or something. We've done that many times in different things we've done. The one thing that I've heard over the years is, here I worked for 3 days on this event, and then I never really understood how the event went overall. So it's not just about the sponsors that gave you money and keeping them informed, or giving them kind of including them in a wrap up, but the volunteers that help to make it happen. It's important to include them in the wrap up, So they truly feel like they weren't just used for the event, but were a part of the success of the event.
That's great.
Yeah, and I would add, I think it's really important to keep in contact, as Joanne was saying, and actually Chris mentioned in the chat too, sending a card, just to kind of stay in the minds of volunteers that you might not see that often, but who you know you depend on sometimes. Especially like through COVID, when I wasn't seeing a lot of my volunteers for long periods of time, to just check in now and then and see how they're doing, kind of keeps your relationship going. And also with everyone, but particularly with, well, I'll just say, like, people in different walks of life who are volunteering prefer different kinds of communication. So someone, you know, might really like a card, or someone might prefer email. I have a volunteer who just never checks her email. So like, it's best to check in with a phone call or a text with her. So knowing how to communicate in order to keep those relationships alive is really important. And then when you're staying in touch, or while you're staying in touch, to be keeping in mind any upcoming events or tasks that might be suited to a specific volunteer. I keep a running list in particular for one of my volunteers, who's kind of willing to do anything. I keep a list of things, and once I have a few on the list, I let her know and see if she has any free time. But it's good to have diverse opportunities to engage with the organization. So, you know, one volunteer might be, you know, really, what's the word, like extroverted and be willing to table at an event, and someone else might just want to write an article and send it in and not be put on the spot at all. Someone else might be willing to make direct phone calls to people, but not talk in person to people. So getting a feel for what the different volunteers are comfortable with, and then trying to come up with diverse ways for them to engage as volunteers, so that they don't feel like, oh, well, I'm willing to, but I'm not willing to do the things that they're needing at this time.
That's a really huge point you bring up as far as communication, different forms of communication. You know, there's a lot of older people that would love to volunteer, but they're not on the internet and they don't have a printer to print things off. So you have to be flexible and make it a point to reach out to people in all different ways, you know, whether, you know, and the same goes for event organizing and getting vendor packets to people. You know, some people, you know, that are 80 years old and they keep sewing quilts and stuff, but they don't have an internet. They don't get the packet that way. So you have to be respectful of what they need as well. That's a really great point.
Yeah, in the North Country, you really can't assume that someone has the internet. It's really best to ask, do you use the internet, or do you have a telephone? Yeah, better to ask than to assume.
Exactly.
Anybody have anything else to add to the takeaways?
I'll just add that because our interns and volunteers come in on a weekly basis, I try to give them a varied list of things to do, just so that it's not monotonous every time they come in. So I try to keep a running list of things we need done, and then they can choose kind of what they would like to do, so that one, it's getting to something that they would like to do rather than something they feel like they have to do. And also that way things are getting done, obviously, but also they have a better sense of what needs to be done, and if I'm doing something else, they're not constantly, okay, what now? Okay, what now? Which is kind of, to be honest, annoying for everyone. Like they don't want to be doing that either. So just having a running list, I have found to be very helpful.
Yeah, maybe sometime they'll see something on the list and say, oh, my friend would be really good at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
Exactly.
referrals. Love referrals. At this point, I want to open it up to the floor and ask if anyone has any specific questions or general questions. Chris?
I have a question actually.
Oh, sure.
How do, in this day and age, how do you deal with, how do I say this properly?
Uh-oh.
Because it can be it can be a sensitive situation. Especially for those that do kids things or have volunteers to do with kids. How do you screen, or how do you make sure that you have the right volunteers to be around people, I guess. You know what I mean.
Represent your organization.
Yes, exactly.
We run background checks.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Same here.
Do you do that with all your volunteers?
Not the ones that are in high school, but our older volunteers, we run background checks on.
Interesting.
At Cornell Cooperative Extension, everyone who's is at all on the learning farm where we work in Canton, in the summertime when the farm day camps are going on, even if you're not engaging with those campers, everyone has to have a background check, whether you're an employee there or a volunteer or anything. So yeah, I think we err on the side of being safe by just doing a background check on all of the.
My case as an artist, it's personal reference. You know, I'm not an organization, but it's important to check on references to, you know, in particular with the team that works with me, she came highly recommended. And so that was, you know, that made me feel safer in regards to working with the kids at the library.
I do ask for 2 references from all our volunteers as well. And I do follow up on them, so.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
Good practice, yeah. And does anyone, Chris, did you have a question?
I did.
I'm sorry.
Forgot what it was.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, great. Well, if there are no other questions,
Okay, I remembered. Sorry.
Oh,
is there a directory currently for all the volunteers? Because the problem is so many things are out there. Nobody really knows what's going on unless they happen upon it. Is there a directory currently of all the organizations that are accepting volunteers? Because I think that would be a great idea if somebody was looking to volunteer, like some of the teens who need a bolster and they're, you know, they're going to go to Clarkson, they need something that represents community. It would be good to have like a bulletin that would show different volunteer organizations.
I don't know what
we would put. I'm not aware of any that exist.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
But that's a really good thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that
so.
would be a good task for a volunteer to tackle.
I'd put it together.
Evelyn, did you have a question? Unmute yourself. Jenna, can you unmute her? Hold on. There you go.
Believe that. Sorry.
Here we go.
I'm a slow learning curve.
That's okay.
I just want to say I really appreciate what I'm hearing. And one of the main things I'm hearing is just remember that volunteers are people like everybody else, you know, as Erica said. impress them with the mission or the goal or the ideal of what you're doing. And that, instead of we need this, we need that, you know, always, I used to be a high school teacher, same thing, you know, give the goal, the ideal, the mission, the beauty. And then remember they're human beings who need appreciation, that the personal touch is everything, you know. So I appreciate all of that.
Can I just, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I didn't mean to interrupt. There must be a delay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in my own case, you know, I'm feeling very stretched. Now I have all of these, but I do have friends helping me for my events, concerts. I have friends who take the tickets and do the receptions, and they're super, you know, but it's a kind of a circumscribed group. I feel I could use a little more. And I like what you're saying about, you know, being very clear about what's needed and when. And I would like to be able to trust my gallery with people for a few hours, but there would have to be a lot of sharing of information to do that, and a lot of trust because of the gift shop and the value of the artwork. So, and I'm not prepared to do background checks and all of that. So that's a little bit of, you know, area for growth for me.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons why word of mouth is so important for you. And having had an event at your place through the chamber years ago, you know, I mean, it was perfectly run. You did have a lot of volunteers there that night, and that was just remarkable of, you know, just all the talent and the artwork and stuff in your place. It's beautiful.
My nephew and nieces, they all got recruited.
I would like to share one thing about when you said they're people too. When I first started organizing the junior carp tournament for the county chamber, I remember that, you know, there's all volunteers. We don't have any paid anybody. And all the marshals that sit on the riverbank for 2 solid days and help the kids. And then there's the ham radio ops, and Alicia has been there helping me with that tournament, so she knows it well and she'll know what I'm talking about. But it had been running for maybe about I think 7 years when I started organizing it. And I learned that the ham radio ops in every one of the fishing locations, the tournament paid for their meals. But all the marshals and waymasters, they did not. And I was like, what? You're bringing food to these people that are helping, but the other people that are helping in the same location are seeing that you're bringing them food. So it has been always my goal, and we've done it every year since, that every volunteer in every location gets every meal for free. And, you know, I mean, I can't even tell you how many people came to me after and said, thank you so much for feeding us. I'm like, well, it's like lunch, dinner on Friday and lunch on Saturday. Of course, you're spending 3 days of your life dedicated to these kids in this tournament. I can't believe they weren't feeding you before. And they said, no, they said they couldn't. So I went looking for sponsors for volunteer meals. You know, it cost about $1,000 for the 2 days, but it was worth every single penny. And they come back year after year after year. We're in our 18th year this July. Thank you, Lord, for letting us have it this year. And, you know, I'm talking people that come, carp angler group members, CAG members that come from other states to help the kids. So not only do they have travel and they're, you know, taking time off of work, and they're, you know, got hotels and the other meals, but just the fact that I'm feeding them and giving them free meals meant everything to them. So a little bit goes a very, very long ways.
That's a great point too about other organizations opening up to the community to really support the carp tournament as well. You're giving them an opportunity to be a part of that mission. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like in the locations in Ogdensburg, we would buy meals from Ogdensburg businesses, same with Waddington and Messina. Now we have several businesses that now have said, oh no, I'll just donate the meals for the volunteers in Ogdensburg for lunch on Friday. So like in Ogdensburg 2 years ago when we had it, we only had to buy one of the meals because the other two were donated. So the more people learn about what you're doing and how many people it takes to run an event like that, everybody wants to be a part, and it's really just showing appreciation for them. So, and not only that, but in addition to giving them free meals, giving them like 3 or 4 choices to pick from. And even though it's very time consuming, as Alicia can confirm, on Thursday before the event starts, I go around to every single volunteer. I go through all 3 meals and the choices, and I get their choices so they get exactly what they want. So it's, the more time you can put into the smallest of details, like is how I started out this panel conversation, the more success you'll have.
Excellent. All right. If anyone else has any questions, this is the time. If not, we're going to say thank you to our panelists. And I think this has been a great discussion.
Well,
Excellent.
thank you for including me.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Thank
all of you.
Everybody. Alicia,
Have a
would you
wonderful
be
day.
willing to put everybody's contact information into an email or something?
I don't know if people want that, if that's okay with everybody.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
It's okay with me too.
It's easier.
With me.
I can
Thank
do
you
that.
so much.
Everybody.
You can find me on Facebook anyways.
That's right. All right.
Or at the junior carp tournament.
Thanks, everybody, and hi,
Thank
Anita,
you.
wherever you are.
Thank you so much.